Have you ever tried dealing in a currency that's not paper money? It's not made of metal, and it's not gold either. Here, paper bills lose all value. They're useless. Wealth here is of a different kind. You won't pay money to get what you want. Instead, you'll pay from your own intelligence, from the units of your mind and the power of your thinking. But be careful. Every kind of wealth has its limits. Never ever allow yourself to go bankrupt, for here, bankruptcy doesn't bring humiliation or insult like it might in our world, nor does it bring kindness and sympathy from people with gentle hearts. No, here, the bankrupt are slaughtered. Beware. You are in the land of Zycola. If you are an adventurer, a lover of exploration and mystery, then go ahead. And if one day you find yourself inside a magical underground passage that carries you to a new land, if you find yourself trapped there, bound by the strange laws of that world, then know this: there's only one way out, the ancient black hole known as the Vorik Tunnel. And if you reach that place, then you can be certain you are in the land of Zycola. Our story starts in modern times, specifically in the late years of the first decade of the third millennium, in Egypt, the land of magic and legends. Here, a young adventurer discovers a mysterious tunnel connecting our world to an unknown realm. A realm we know nothing about. A world where everything is different, where the very laws of life have changed. The only connection between it and our world is through ancient tunnels, and all we know about it is what comes to us through tales of fantasy. One day, Muhammad sat deep in thought, thinking about the girl he loved. They say love is blind, he told himself, and here I am, struck blind by my love. But what could he do? He had fallen for her, and what happened, happened. Now he sat in his room every day, writing again. I am Muhammad. I am 28 years old. I graduated from Cairo University's Faculty of Commerce 6 years ago. I'm from the village of El Bahufrik in Dakalia Governorate. And today, my marriage proposal to the woman I love was rejected for the 8th time for the same reason. He pinned the paper to the wall beside 7 others, each representing a previous failed attempt, all written in the same style, all heavy with sadness and defeat. Leaning back, his mind drifted into the current of memory, carrying him 6 years into the past, to when he was in his final year of university. Fate had brought him face to face with Mona, a girl from his own village, and his joy only grew when he learned she was a first-year student at the same college. That day, their meetings began to happen again and again, sometimes by chance, sometimes on purpose. A deep sigh pulled him out of his memories. He exhaled sharply, a mix of anger and grief. His eyes fell on the latest paper pinned under the other 8. On it he had written, "Rejected again, for the same reason, Mona's crazy father." This wasn't news to him. Everyone in the village knew the man was the very embodiment of madness. But Muhammad seemed to be his prime victim, the one who suffered most from his eccentricity. The first time Muhammad proposed, her father looked at him with contempt and said, "Who are you to marry Mona? What have you done in your life to make you worthy of her?" Muhammad's heart sank, but he tried to speak, talking about his academic achievements, his financial situation, how he was living with his grandfather after losing his parents, and how he had a suitable job that would help him start a family. But her father scoffed. "You're no different from anyone else. I'm not giving my daughter to the likes of you." And that was the end of it. Rejection. At first, Muhammad thought it was because he didn't have enough money or a proper job. But later, even after securing work, when he asked for her hand again, the painful scene repeated. Rejection. The same story replayed 8 times. Her father didn't care about Muhammad's noble intentions, his decent request, or his genuine love for Mona, nor even Mona's love for him. Finally, Muhammad's patience snapped. "I haven't done anything in my life to make me some legendary hero for your daughter? Fine. You fought in many wars? We've heard enough of your stories to last a lifetime. You want a hero for your daughter? Then tell me how. Tell me what to do to be worthy in your eyes." His eyes burned red with anger. "I'll marry Mona, with or without your blessing. I will marry her." Everyone in the village knew this man's strange wish. He wanted his daughter to marry someone truly extraordinary, a king among kings, or a hero straight out of a fairy tale. That's why people had stopped proposing altogether. They were certain Mona was doomed to remain unmarried. Everyone except Muhammad. He still thought about what could make him unique, but he didn't know what that thing was. In frustration, he prayed for her father's death, hoping it would bring peace to Mona and to himself. Despite his cheerful face and lively spirit, Muhammad's love for Mona and her father's endless refusals had carved sadness into his heart and stolen the smile from his lips. His 80-year-old grandfather noticed his deep sorrow and asked, "What's with the long face, Muhammad? By now, you should be used to it." Muhammad replied, I just can't imagine her with anyone else, Grandpa. I don't understand what he wants. The age of miracles is over. There's no hope left. So what am I supposed to do? Just sit here twiddling my thumbs? His grandfather chuckled. You might as well bury yourself in a tunnel. Muhammad's eyes lit up. Yes, the tunnel. Remember when I was little and crying, you used to tell me about the tunnel under our village and how you went down there more than 50 years ago. The old man smiled. Of course I remember. Those were the days. 4 mischievous young men full of energy. We'd heard so many stories about treasure in the tunnel that ran under our village that it had been used as a storage place for the rich during the war. Everyone knew it was there, but no one dared to go inside because they said it was haunted by jinn and spirits. Anyone who went in never came back. Of course, we didn't care about all that. One night, we went to the abandoned house where the entrance was. We moved the rock blocking the door, went down one after the other with our kerosene lamps, and after a long staircase, we found ourselves in a narrow passage. We had barely taken a few steps when we couldn't breathe. Suddenly, all the lamps went out at once. Then someone screamed, "A jinn! A jinn!" I can't even tell you how fast we all ran out. Our knees were knocking together from fear. After that night, no one dared to go down there again. Muhammad laughed. At least it's a good memory, a fun adventure. And hey, you were brave enough to go down there in the first place, even if you ran out scared. His grandfather grinned. Just don't tell anyone about that part, the running away. Muhammad went back to his room and tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. He kept replaying his grandfather's words in his mind. His grandfather never lied. His eyes drifted to the paper that read, "The reason for Mona's father's refusal. He wants someone unique, someone to satisfy his madness and arrogance." Muhammad thought to himself, I will marry no one but Mona. And if I can't, I'll never marry at all. Then began a battle inside his head. What if I go down into that tunnel? What if there really is treasure in there? Treasure? Come on, that's just crazy talk. Don't forget, they say the tunnel is haunted by spirits and ghosts. But then another voice in his mind spoke. If you're too much of a coward, then you don't deserve Mona. Is this the life you're happy with? A commerce degree, but a job that has nothing to do with commerce, working in a medicine warehouse? 4 years of study and you're basically a store hand. If it weren't for living with your grandfather, your salary would run out halfway through the month. If you truly love Mona, prove it, to yourself and to her. And if you do find that treasure, you'll be famous, not just in Egypt, but across the world. And if you don't find it, at least you'll have the honor of trying. He sat up in bed, grabbed Mona's photo, stared into her eyes, and whispered, I'm going down into that tunnel. I will, no matter what happens. If her old man is crazy, then when I lose it, I'm crazier than madness itself. He thought he was speaking only to himself, but at the doorway his grandfather was standing silently, listening. His face showed no surprise, as though he had been expecting this moment all along. He stayed there until Muhammad finally fell into a deep sleep. Then the old man went to his own room, opened an ancient wooden box, and took out an old photo album thick with dust. He brushed it clean and began flipping through the pages one by one, pausing for a long time at a certain photo, and the memories of a distant past flooded back. The next morning, as usual, Muhammad and his grandfather woke early. Muhammad had work to get to, and his grandfather liked to wake at dawn, waiting for him so they could have breakfast together. Suddenly, Muhammad broke the silence. Abdo, can you live on your own? His grandfather looked at him, puzzled. You mean you're planning to travel and leave me? I mean, if I left for a little while, you could manage, right? I've decided to leave the village for a bit. I'll come back quickly. You won't even notice I'm gone. Then he tried to justify himself. I need to go somewhere I can find myself, feel like I exist. You know your grandson has a commerce degree, yet he's hauling boxes in a medicine store. Hauling, Grandpa. I'll be gone for a short while, and I'll come back soon. He was about to leave the room when his grandfather's voice stopped him cold. Why are you lying to me, Muhammad? Why don't you just admit you're going into the tunnel? The question hit him like lightning. How? How do you know? What tunnel? You're imagining things, Abdo. We're not the type to... I've known for a long time, the old man interrupted, his tone firm. A very long time. Now sit down and tell me, why do you want to go into that tunnel? Muhammad tried to dodge the question. Why are you so obsessed with this tunnel story? I'm honestly traveling. Why, Muhammad? Why the tunnel? Finally, Muhammad admitted. To prove to Mona and her father that I'm a hero, that I'm different, that I deserve her. That's it? His grandfather pressed. That's it. And who knows, maybe I'll find the treasure you went looking for back then. His grandfather shook his head. No, that's not why you want to go. What if Mona married someone else? Would you still go? Mohammed fell silent. You're not doing this for Mona, the old man continued. You're going for the same reason I went, the same reason others before me went. It's in our blood, Mohammed. The love of the unknown, the love of rebellion, the love of discovery, the love of being different. Mona's father has rejected you many times, and you always knew why. Why now do you suddenly want to be a hero? When you were young and I told you stories about the tunnel, I knew the day would come when I'd tell you again and you'd decide to go down there. Yesterday was that day. And what happened to you happened to your father in the exact same way. The only difference is, I knew you wanted to go. Your father left suddenly, taking your mother with him. They thought it would be a short trip, that they'd be back soon. That's why they left you with me when you were 2 years old. They said they'd return in days, but the days turned into years. The whole village believes they died in an accident. But the truth is, they went into the tunnel. I never resented them, because I myself went in and made it out alive. I won't resent you if you want to go. But when you decide, tell me, Mohammed. There's a lot you still need to know about the Vorik tunnel. Mohammed left the house, but instead of going to work, he went to meet Mona after she had called him. On the way, his mind spun with his grandfather's words, with thoughts about his true reason for going down there. And with the parents he had never met, not even in a photograph, though people often told him he resembled them. When he reached the meeting place, Mona was wearing an uncharacteristically serious expression. What's wrong, Mona? He asked. I'm sorry my father treated you like that. For the 8th time, she said softly. You're upset about that? I'm used to it by now. I've become a legend in the village, record holder for most rejections. But Mona's face stayed grim. I used to think, like you, that my father wanted someone different. But he's changed. Changed? How? Yesterday, a doctor proposed to me. I thought my father would reject him, but to my shock, he agreed. Mohammed's voice rose with fury. He agreed. How could he? Yes, she said, her voice breaking. And he insists I marry him. I tried to refuse, for you. But he struck me and told me he knows what's best for me, that my future is secure with the doctor, unlike the hardship I'd face with you. Mohammed was stunned. So this madman doesn't want someone special, he just wants anyone but me. Years of love had just been thrown away. A bitter voice inside blamed her for giving in so easily. His mind filled with unanswered questions until she asked him to leave so she wouldn't be late, as if avoiding him. He forced a sarcastic smile, said goodbye, and let her walk away alone for the first time. A deep sense of defeat and heartbreak washed over him. He thought of all he'd endured for her and how it had all ended like ice melting in the midday sun. He called his boss and quit his job. Then he dragged his feet home, straight to his room. He tore down all 8 rejection letters, ripping them to shreds with a bitter, almost mad laugh. Then he went to his grandfather. I've decided. I'm going into the tunnel. Mona's gone, the job's gone, now I have to do something I can be proud of, something I can tell my children about one day. I want to feel, just once, like a hero in my own eyes. This feeling of failure is killing me. I was afraid to leave you alone, but since you're encouraging me, I'll go. His grandfather nodded. I knew you'd go down there. That's why I've prepared a surprise for you. At that moment, a man walked in, his grandfather's old friend, known in the village as the Tunnel Madman, Aslan. Leaving the two of them to talk, the old man stepped away. Aslan leaned in. The tunnel's real name is the Vorik Tunnel. You can search everywhere. You won't find any information about it. People think your grandfather and I are crazy, that we only imagined we went down there, and in a way, they're right. We didn't actually reach the Vorik Tunnel. We only entered a passage leading to it. It was shallow, not too deep. The lamps went out because of low oxygen, nothing more. Our imaginations turned it into a story about a djinn. After that, time and illness kept me from going back. But I found something once, an old book, though most of it was destroyed by time. Only 10 pages are still intact. It tells of Vorik, a wealthy Mamluk and the owner of the land where your village now stands. He ordered the tunnel to be dug as a refuge from war. It took 15 years to build, and countless treasures were stored inside. The writer described his journey. There's a passage with no ventilation. You must pass through it quickly to reach the real staircase that leads 30 meters underground. After that, there's no problem with air. And when the moon is full, the tunnel is lit at night with natural light, a testament to the brilliance of the engineers of the past. The last page ended with, I thought the true treasure was the wealth stored in the tunnel, but I discovered something far more precious, greater even than Vorik's riches. I discovered. And then, nothing. The sentence was never finished. Aslan's eyes gleamed. If you want to know what he discovered, you have to be in the tunnel tonight. Tonight, the moon is full, the tunnel will be lit. Mohammed's heart pounded. I'm ready. This is my chance, I have to take it. Later, he climbed to the rooftop and gazed over his village. This might be the last time he'd ever see it. Night came. Muhammad waited for everyone to fall asleep. At 1 a.m., he went to his grandfather. "I'll be back soon, Grandpa." His grandfather handed him a photograph from the old album. "This is your father and mother, just before they left me. I've been waiting for the right moment to give you this." He pulled him into a tight embrace, tears in his eyes. Muhammad smiled faintly. "I'll come back to you. I'll come back soon." He set off toward the underground passage, carrying a bag filled with food, a flashlight, the old book, some papers and pens, and his phone. At last, he reached the abandoned house and made his way to the place where the old rock lay. It took several exhausting attempts, but finally he managed to move it. Beneath it was an iron door. He pried it open, and thus began his journey into the hidden tunnel. Suddenly, the iron door slammed shut behind him. Darkness swallowed everything. With his flashlight in hand, he pressed forward, tearing through thick cobwebs. The deeper he went, the harder it became to breathe. The tunnel seemed endless. No light, no exit. He ran wildly, panic rising in his chest, knowing that if he turned back now, he'd suffocate before he could reach the surface. Collapsing in exhaustion and despair, he was about to give up when his eyes caught a faint glimmer of light ahead, a few wooden planks just meters away. Certain it was a door, he crawled toward it, lungs burning, until he finally reached it. Summoning the last of his strength, he hurled himself against the planks, smashing through them, only to tumble down a deep wooden staircase. When the fresh air hit him, he came to, finding himself in a lit space. Laughing aloud, he cried, "Huh, I'm in Forex basement finally." He descended the rest of the stairs and stepped into a vast tunnel, far larger than he'd imagined. As he walked, he jotted notes about the ornate carvings and intricate beauty around him. But the light began to fade, and still he pressed forward without a care. Then he saw it, a massive portrait of a man, presumably Forik himself. He snapped a photo with his phone, but before he could take a closer look, the ground trembled violently. The walls around him began to crumble. He bolted, his bag slipping from his shoulders and vanishing into the chaos behind him. At the tunnel's end, he faced a fork just as one passage collapsed entirely, forcing him into the other. The quake pursued him mercilessly. He ran until a pale light appeared in the distance. But then the ground gave way. He tumbled into a pit, rolling until he burst through an opening in the earth. Behind him, the hole sealed shut forever. Just as relief began to flood him, he realized where he was, an endless desert. No signs of life, no plants, no water, just scorching emptiness stretching beyond the horizon. Hours passed as he sat there, clueless about what to do, until two strange figures appeared, running far off in the distance. Desperate for any human contact, he rushed toward them. They looked unwell. "Where are we?" he asked. In formal Arabic they replied, "We are poor, and we have fled into the desert." Their speech struck him as odd, almost archaic. Feeling pity, he offered them money. One of them took the bills, studied them, and ate them. Muhammad froze in disbelief. To them, his currency was nothing more than paper. "You are generous, wealthy, and strong," they said. "So we will tell you the truth. We are fugitives from the land of Zycola. We will never return." They pointed toward a distant city, an enchanting, almost magical vision shimmering in the heat. Muhammad couldn't understand why anyone would flee from such beauty. "Because," they said bitterly, "the rich like you do not care. We have seen hell in that place." With that, they rushed away like madmen. But Muhammad's curiosity burned hotter than the desert sun. And besides, after hours under its merciless heat, he desperately needed food and water. He decided to head for Zycola. He followed the road leading to the city, noticing carts and carriages moving in both directions. From a distance, the road seemed short, but the more he walked, the longer it stretched. Each time he tried to hitch a ride, the drivers asked, "How much will you pay?" When he offered them his money, they stared in confusion before throwing it back in his face. At last, a young man clinging to the back of a carriage gestured for Muhammad to join him. They rode together until they reached the city's towering gates. Massive stone walls encircled it, the main gate wide open. The boy introduced himself as Yaman, a native of Zycola. When Muhammad named his own hometown, Yaman stared blankly. He had never heard of Mansoura, Egypt, or even the continent of Africa. If Muhammad's suspicions were correct, he was no longer in his own world. He stepped through the gates, and immediately, a violent shiver seized his body, followed by an excruciating pain in his head, as though it would split open. The agony lasted minutes before fading, entirely vanishing, as if it had never been there. Inside the city, his eyes widened. The clothing was unlike anything he'd seen, blending countless styles from across cultures. The architecture was breathtaking, perfectly symmetrical, elegantly detailed like something from a dream. Hungry, he entered a restaurant and ate until he was full. Yet when he reached for his money, the owner waved him away, calling him rich and refusing payment. It happened again when he bought new clothes. No money exchanged hands. But everywhere he noticed strange numbers written above shops, units he could not yet understand. Night fell, and the city blazed with firelight, illuminating the streets with astonishing precision, as if fire itself had replaced electricity. From a passing boy, he learned that tomorrow was Zycola's greatest celebration, the Day of Zycola, a joyous event for everyone, except one. On that day, the poorest citizen in Zycola would be executed. Mohammed's stomach turned. If his money had no value here, then wasn't he the poorest? But the boy explained this year, the poor man would be executed immediately, without the usual contest between the three poorest citizens. Why? Because the other two had fled. A cold realization hit Mohammed, the two strangers he'd met in the desert. Still, he convinced himself he was safe. Someone else had already been chosen. But doubts gnawed at him. Was this really time travel? A parallel world? Why did he feel less intelligent, less sharp since entering? To end the uncertainty, he asked Yaman, "What year is it?" 2009, Yaman replied. Mohammed's knees buckled. How could it be the same year? He had walked only a kilometer or two from his village. Overwhelmed, he fainted. When he awoke the next day, the streets roared with celebration. The air was thick with music and laughter. In the crowd, he saw the same carriage he'd ridden in with Yaman. From it stepped a breathtaking woman, scattering flowers to the cheering masses. Her beauty washed away his unease. Yaman noticed his gaze. "That is Dr. Asl," he said, "the physician of Zycola." At one point, Mohammed caught one of her flowers. She saw him and smiled a smile that lit up his chest with warmth. They continued together to the great square, where nearly 50,000 people gathered. There they met Yaman's friend Iyad, who greeted Mohammed warmly. The drums thundered. Silence fell. A massive man stepped onto the platform, a sword glinting in his hand. The executioner. Two guards appeared, dragging a young, shaven-headed man whose hands were bound. He looked sickly, though still in his prime. Again the drum sounded. Everyone dropped to their knees. Yaman yanked Mohammed down beside him. With one swing, the executioner severed the man's head. Blood sprayed across the platform. The crowd erupted in cheers, the music resumed, and the celebration roared on. But Mohammed trembled in horror. What kind of savages are these? In his world, the poor were helped, not slaughtered. "I want to leave Zycola." "Now," he told Iyad. "Impossible," Yaman said calmly. "The gates closed at dawn. They will not open again until the next day of Zycola 1 year from now. Yesterday, when you entered, was the only time." Mohammed's voice rose. "But I have nothing here, not even money that works." Yaman smiled faintly. "Money is worthless here. Our true currency is intelligence units. The smarter you are, the richer you are. The poorest are the least intelligent. Everything is paid for in intelligence units. You work, you earn them, you eat, you spend them. From the moment you entered, you became one of us. Protect and grow your intelligence, or on the next day of Zycola, you may face the sword." Mohammed remembered the shiver and agony when he entered the gates. Was it real, or some strange trick? "And those numbers on the shops," Yaman explained, "are prices in intelligence units. They transfer automatically from person to person. Since I last saw you, you've spent quite a lot. You look different, paler, thinner, weaker. You've lost some of your wealth." The warning chilled Mohammed's blood. Gain intelligence and you grow younger and stronger. Lose it, and you grow sick and frail until the day of Zycola, when Dr. Asl will judge who is truly poor. The poorest three compete, and the loser, Yaman's voice trailed off, is executed. And thus ended the first part of Mohammed's journey into the strange and perilous land of Zycola.